We'll see. Hi, my name is Peter Hook from Joy Division and New Order, and you're listening or watching Couch Riffs Podcast.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Mike Squires. This is the Couch Riffs Podcast. Welcome to the Couch Riffs Podcast, episode number 274. And my guest, Peter Hook, affectionately known as Hooky. Here I am once again introducing a legend. Peter Hook co-founded Joy Division and New Order. He's also had Revenge and Monaco and has done a number of collaborations. He's a legend, a bass legend, and is a part of an incredibly influential body of music. I was tasked with learning the Joy Division catalog, as well as about, 10 or 15 New Order songs in about 10 days, and then start a tour with him a couple years ago, 2 years ago exactly it ended. And it was one of my life's true and great pleasures to get to perform with Hooky and the band, Peter Hook and the Light. Great fellas. I just saw them the other night, and they played here in Seattle. Hooky came down, hung out, and shared some stories. He's a great storyteller, great talker, and a great dude. So I hope that you enjoy this podcast episode of Couch Riffs. If you are enjoying the Couch Riffs podcast or the cover songs that we record, we do them live in studios now with a full live band. No bullshit. It's a live band. No more quarantine videos. That shit is over. We did a cover of 24 Hours by Joy Division. That was the first one I did when I got back here to Seattle. But if you're enjoying the Couch Riffs podcast or the cover songs, please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/couchriffs. That's the only place where you can download the audio from the cover songs. I post up the podcast a week early there. And it is the one way when I'm not on tour that I'm able to bring in any amount of money at all. And it's not a mountain of money that I'm bringing in. I'm grateful for every cent to help keep the lights on here, so that I can continue doing this here in the studio, continue making it better, continue getting legendary guests like Hooky, like Johnny Two Bags, like Duff, and the 270 other guests that I've had. Really fortunate to have this studio, and I love doing this. So your Patreon support is hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. Patreon.com/couchriffs. Thank you. Enjoy this episode. Hooky is a punk gentleman, a true punk. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and don't be a dick. Hooky, I'm about as pleased as a pig in shit to have you here on the podcast.
Are we allowed to swear then?
This is my show, yeah. This is an adult, this is a mature audience show.
Is that why you live next door to Showgirls?
That's right.
Yes, it's X-rated.
Well, it's PG-13.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps NC-17 at times. You're on tour now here, and you're here in Seattle tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been what appears to be a pretty massively successful tour. I believe the best U.S. tour that you've had with the Light.
It's been a steady incline up, which has been wonderful. But it's I suppose in an odd way, when I started doing what I was doing, people were very skeptical because of the breakup, the split in 2007 and somebody carrying it on. I mean, my God, it was very, very difficult. So you've had to prove to people that you're doing it with the right intentions, with the right amount of heart and soul. And in a way, we are still doing that, every night. So the fact that it's got bigger and bigger as we've convinced more people has been absolutely fantastic. So, the thing is that you've worked with us. You know that we treat every single gig as our last, if you like. So the thing is that all I want to do is be able to celebrate the music that I love with people who agree. So it's as simple as that. So the thing is that there was a unwritten rule with New Order that we hardly ever played. And I was fighting it all the time. And not only did we hardly ever play, but we hardly ever played any of the bloody songs. So, and I fought it so valiantly, but just couldn't get anywhere. You can't make people do things they really don't want to do. And I really did want to do all of it. I wanted to play all the songs.
Sure.
And I wanted to go everywhere and play to people that wanted to hear us. I thought it was the biggest compliment in the world. I really couldn't understand the attitude. So the thing is that when New Order split in 2007, and even though them Barney and Steve say, we never split. We did split. We agreed to finish the band and we agreed to split. So the thing is, the fact that they changed their mind and then took the trademark is by the by. The thing is that once I was free of them, I could do anything I wanted to do. So basically, whenever anybody asked me to play, wherever it is, I remember Barney saying to me once, "Oh, you'd play in Beirut, you." And I went, "Yeah, I would play in Beirut. It'd be a great compliment to play in Beirut.
Sure.
Give them a break for an hour and a half from the trials and tribulations. Yeah, I'd be delighted. I'd play anywhere, So, and I can't understand the attitude of working so hard, writing the music, working so hard, getting it released, working so hard, building up a following, and then just shitting on it. I don't understand it. So once I was loose, I basically, I'll do anything, anywhere.
And that mountain of work was similar, like it wasn't exactly starting over from scratch, but you were playing much smaller rooms.
Yeah, I mean, when the first gig that we did was 300, and that was in Manchester.
Right.
So, if you're going to get anybody,
right?
You're going to get anybody in Manchester, yeah.
What room was it?
It was the Factory Club, my club in Manchester. Myself and my partner run it. It was the old factory office. It's called Paradise Factory. Now it's called Fact 251. So it's just a small club on 3 floors. The venue is only 300 capacity. So we played there and we managed to get 2 nights because we had such a big guest list. It went over into 2 nights. So, and I remember I was in the hotel across the road, which is an Ibis, which you probably know is a very, very cheap hotel. It's
Sure.
about 30 quid a night. It's shite. And I'd gone in there to, just to get my head together before the gig. And I was literally peeking over the windowsill, facing the club to see if anybody came, because I really didn't know. The internet chatter,
Right.
as we all know and love it, was very, very aggressively negative. It scared off the 3 people I had lined up as singers. And it was only Rowetta from Happy Mondays, God bless her, who said to me, she said, "Okay, face it, you're going to have to do it." And I went, "Me?" Because I wanted to play bass. And that was when I ruined my son's life by dragging him along to play bass while I sang. And I must admit, it took a long time. I mean, I don't class myself as a singer. I've not got that blatant disregard for people's feelings that most singers have. I can't do that. I'm too empathic.
Well, Ian wasn't Bing Crosby.
No, it wasn't about the way of doing it. I mean, Ian was a fantastic singer in the way that he was so generous because he always wanted you to sing.
Right.
You sing this, okay? You sing this. Because Barney wouldn't sing. He wouldn't do backing vocals either. I mean, how ironic is that? That's really weird. So it was always me that sang, and in the early days, I'd written a couple of songs, novelty at a later date. God, I can't remember. Dreams Never End and stuff like that. That Dreams Never End was New Order. Freudian slip. So he'd always say to me, "You sing this one, you sing this one," and I was like, "Well, this," I didn't have the confidence really to do it. And the first time he actually pushed me until I did it was Interzone. So my voice is in the same register as Ian's. So doing Ian is not easy, but it means you've got the right register. So it took me about, 9 months, a year maybe, before I actually felt comfortable doing it. That I was doing it justice, if you like. And from a weird way, seeing the lyrics and delving into the lyrics, you hear the lyrics as a bass player, and you see the passion and the conviction in the delivery,
Sure.
which was great. All I had to do was look at Ian Curtis, and I knew he meant it. He fucking meant it with every fibre in his body. And every gig was exactly the same. I never saw Ian pissed off in that he never gave a proper delivery of the gig. Right. He always played every gig like it was his last gig. And sadly, it got to the point where it was. So the thing is that when you're a witness to that passion, I mean, he really moved me as a musician. So the thing is that I think the one thing I've inherited from watching him deliver his lyrics and his songs, his melodies, is the passion to make sure that they are delivered properly, in New Order. I have to be careful here. My wife always goes mad at me about this, delving into it. In New Order, you had to suffer some fucking terrible deliveries. It was embarrassing. My God, I mean, at first I thought it was funny, that your lead singer would sit on the drum riser with his on. How does it feel to treat me like you do? We've laid you, and it was funny. I thought, oh, that's fucking really punk, man. Right. Not pretending. He's not pretending. He's pissed off, and he's letting everybody know it. Unfortunately, there was 27,000 of the buggers. Right. But nobody seemed to notice. It was a weird thing to be in. But I mean, I could never do that. If I don't want to do it, then you shouldn't subject people to it. And also, maybe in a funny way, you shouldn't pretend. So I suppose maybe that's one of the things I liked about Barney, was that he didn't pretend. But it became quite frustrating because you were working your heart out. And it was like dragging a mill wheel behind you. It's a really reluctant mill wheel. It just didn't work. I mean, to be honest to them, they've worked more in their 50s and 60s than they ever did in their 30s and 40s. New
Maybe
Order, which was
real.
Well, either that or the financial collapse in 2008 might have inspired them as well, I think.
Sure.
Financial collapses and divorces are great instruments to get bands back together again.
Hear, hear.
Yes, there you go. So yeah, it was a weird one. So the thing is that working through it and working as I do, and getting the sweaty, wonderful gigs back, where you're part of the performance. The weird thing about success is that in some ways you become an actor because you're so far away.
Sure.
You have to project like actors do in the theatre, and so you learn a completely different way of doing it. When screens came in, it became a bit easier because then people could see you more, if you like. We did a gig with Bob Dylan, and we did festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
the Light did.
Yeah. We were playing in this little tent, and Bob Dylan was on the main stage. And like anything, I'm always very jealous. Should we be on the main stage? But Bob Dylan, he was so miserable that he turned all the cameras off.
Really?
So on the big screens were blank, and then sort of hid behind something while he sang. And so when we started playing, because we were headlining this little tent, everybody just came to us. So all of a sudden you're like, wow, what happened here? Thank you for that one, Bob. So we had a great gig with about 10,000 people all trying to push in the walls of the tent. But the thing is that as you get bigger, you become a victim of your own success, and you have to act and learn to do things in a different way. And to be honest with you, I missed the small, sweaty gigs when you can see people's faces and, get involved in it on a really, I don't know. I mean, anybody that's never done it probably wouldn't understand, but it's that being right in it.
Well, there are few people, I would argue, that have a greater punk rock pedigree than you do. And I know you've told the story quite a few times, but I'd love to capture it here, like how sort of the band came together.
The band came together because I was so bored at work that I used to read the music papers from back to front. And I also went through that big thing of, school swapping records, and had to be with the cool kids with the cool records. And in them days, it was Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. Then as I grew up, 16 to 19, I started going to gigs and saw Led Zeppelin, Santana, Deep Purple, God, all the biggies, really big groups. Standard, I suppose
you'd say. Bowie in that
big
era?
Rock. No. Do you know what? I was going out with this girl where I lived in Salford, and she said to me, "Oh, I've got tickets for us to go and see David Bowie." And I was like, "Who? Is that him that wears makeup? I'm not going." So anyway, we ended up breaking up very soon after that, and she went.
I guess you weren't going to see Roxy Music either then.
I did see Roxy Music, actually.
Oh?
Yes. So the thing is that I didn't go, and Bowie did 2 gigs at the Free Trade Hall. He did a matinee, and he played afterwards. And she played me his single at that point, which was Prettiest Star. And I remember sitting there, and I was really pissed off with the relationship and pissed off with her, and all this lot. And I remember listening to Prettiest Star. I can still remember it now. And thinking, you're fucking pretty good, that. But I'm not letting on. So she went on her own, and I still just carried on, being a heavy metal fan. And what happened was that I was working in the town hall in Manchester, which is the civic office. So it was really boring, but it was a great laugh.
You had a city job.
I had a city job, yeah. It was great. I did fuck all. Just pissed about all day. It was fantastic. We had a right laugh, me and my mates that were there. I mean, I was 16. Right. I remember walking in on the first day, and because I failed all my exams. I didn't get any exams. I'm the exact opposite of my son.
Right.
And I walked in on the first day, nervous as hell, 16. I had a week off in between leaving school and getting a job. And I remember walking into the town hall. I got the town hall job by lying, saying I was going to get my exams because you got the job before your exam results came out.
Sure.
So I lied, said I was going to get them. And I got the job. And I remember walking in, and this office, I had to go in, room 325 at the town hall. I've seen it loads of times because I go in the town hall quite a lot. And this guy was sat there puffing on a pipe. What was he called? God, Mr. Wilkinson. And I went up to him and I said, "Hello, Mr. Wilkinson. My name is Peter Hook. It's my first day. I just wondered what you'd like me to do." And he went, "You know what, Peter?" He said, "Why don't you sit over there in the corner and don't fucking bother me?" So that was my first day in work, which I thought was great. I went over there, didn't bother him. I didn't get anything to do for about 3 days. Yeah, it was great. But anyway, it was so boring. I used to read the music press from back to front.
Yeah.
Right? Sounds, NME, God, Melody Maker, anything that I could get my hands on. I used to rush to the newsagents to buy it as it came in, just for the music culture and the fashion and all that crap. And I still wasn't into Bowie, though, funnily enough, then. That sort of came after. And I remember I started reading about these punk bands, and the punk bands were making quite a big splash because they were talentless, supposedly,
according to the press,
compared to how talented our superstars were. So I started to read about this band called the Sex Pistols, and it seemed like every gig that they had, it ended in a fight. And I thought, wow, that does much seem more like my life than Led Zeppelin.
Sure.
And when I saw Led Zeppelin, I never felt inspired to do anything apart from sit there open-mouthed, because I was amazed at their virtuosity, So anyway, in the local paper that I used to read from cover to cover, I do a lot of reading, I still do, there was an advert for the Sex Pistols at the Lesser Free Trade Hall. Now, I'd been to the Lesser Free Trade Hall before because it was where the town hall had their Christmas do. So I knew it. I'd been carried out by my mates past the mayor. The mayor nearly fell over me because I'd passed out on the stairs. So I knew where it was. So I phoned up Barney and I said, hey, we should go and see these. These are the ones I've been reading about, I've been telling you about. And he went, oh, all right, whatever. It was 50p to get in. So 50 cents. And we turned up on the night dressed like hippies.
Right.
And Malcolm McLaren was on the door. Malcolm McLaren actually took my 50p and gave me my ticket. And he looked like an alien. He was all in leather with winkle pickers on, with his big red hair,
And punk fashion hadn't really reached Manchester, right?
It had, but not in our circles.
Yeah.
Buzzcocks, or they hadn't become the Buzzcocks then. Howard Devoto and Peter Shelley were very punk. They were punks, but they'd been travelling to London to do it, and that was where they'd hooked up with the Sex Pistols. They'd seen the Sex Pistols and then suggested that they do a gig in Manchester, which was why they came. Pete Shelley and Howard Devoto promoted the gig. I mean, they were young.
Right.
They were the same age as I'd be. They were 20, For them to take on a gig and put a gig on, it was a big endeavour. So we didn't know each other then.
Mm.
So anyway, we went in, we paid our 50p's. There was me, one of my best mates from school, Terry Mason, who became our roadie and our tour manager, and Barney and his wife. So we went in. There was only about 40 people there.
There was one other famous twat there, wasn't there?
There was a lot of famous twats there, mate. There was a lot of famous twats. Famous now. Yeah. They weren't famous then.
Of course.
So the first band on were called Solstice, and they were a heavy metal band, and they did a 23-minute version of Nantucket Sleigh Ride, which was the full version that they put out on the record, Mountain, didn't they?
Right.
Mountain, the LP was half Nantucket Sleigh Ride, faded out, and then it did the rest of Nantucket Sleigh Ride, and it was 23 and a half minutes long.
Right.
And they played it, exactly the same.
That was their set.
That was the set, yeah. Nantucket Sleigh. How weird was that? So we were used to that shit.
Right.
So we thought, oh, right, okay, great. That normal. We all feel normal here. This is just what we're used to.
Nothing out of place.
Nothing. And then the Sex Pistols came on, and it was like aliens landing.
There was no middle band.
Back garden, no. They came on, the fucking sound was awful. It just sounded like a car crash. And Johnny Rotten spent the whole time just screaming, fuck off. So
some things never change.
Yeah. While I was watching it, I thought, you know what? I could do that. I could scream fuck off. It looks like a laugh.
Sure.
We should do that. And I said to Barney, we should do this. We could do this. He had a guitar. I had nothing. And he said, we should form a band. So when we were way out, we were so excited by this looking like it was something that you could do. When I saw Led Zeppelin, that didn't look like anything I could do.
Right.
right. When I saw the Sex Pistols, I thought I could fucking definitely do it. I suppose in a funny way, I'd have to say the sound guy may have been more to blame for us thinking we could do it than the group. Because when you actually listen to the bootleg of that night, that was actually quite widely available in Manchester, they could play.
That record is, I think, one of the top 20 greatest records
Never mind
of all
the
time.
bollocks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because what happened is as soon as we formed the group, you started to look at everything in a completely different way. Like before, I was blissful in my ignorance and enjoyed everything for what it was. And then once you started playing it, everything became about music. Right. It literally became a 24-hour job as soon as you decided to become a fucking musician. And all the world was just there for you to pander to you being a musician. You know, I mean, you and everybody else was there for the same thing. To pander to you being a fucking musician. It became a 24-hour obsession right from the word go. And I went and bought me bass the next day. And famously, when I went in, Barney said to me, I said, I'll go and get a guitar tomorrow. And he went, no. He said, you've got to get a bass. And I went, right, I'll go tomorrow and get a bass. So when I went into the shop, the guy said to me, hello, can I help you? I said, yeah, I need a bass. And he goes, well, what kind of bass? A bass. So he said, well, what about this one here? And he reached behind him and held it up. And I went, no, that's only got 4 strings. I said, my mate has got 6. He said, that's probably because your mate's got a guitar and this is a bass knobhead.
Ironically.
Oh, right, okay. So I said, right, I'll take it. My mother had lent me £35,
yeah,
$50, and I had to give it back. And the guy said it's 30 quid. So I said, imperfect. So I'll take it. It was a Eco Gibson copy.
20 for the case.
No, it was £5 for the case. So it was $10 for the case. So he said to me, do you want the case? 5 quid. And I only had 5 quid left. Now that meant I would have had to walk home. And home was 25 miles away. So I said, I can't afford the case. And he went, okay. He said, yeah. And he got 2 bin liners and shoved the fucking bass in the bin liner and then shoved the bin liner on the top. And I thought, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Going on with a bin liner. 2 free bin liners. So it was mega. So I then got on the bus, obviously, and I was just clutching this bass guitar, looking at it. It stuck out of the bin liner, you know. And I was just on the bus on the way home. I can remember it vividly. Not even thinking anything about it. Just staring at it. Didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
I had no idea.
No idea how to even
tune it.
No idea.
No, couldn't tune it. I still can't tune now, actually. I'm tone deaf, sadly. So when I got home, I was proud as punch, you know. Mum, look at this. And my dad went, what the fucking hell are you going to do with that, you daft get? And I thought, you know what? I don't know. I've got a fucking clue. Didn't let on, though. You know, the usual.
Luckily, you got Phil now.
Yes. So, and then the next, I phoned Barney up. So, I've got a guitar. I'll come round to yours tomorrow and we'll start practicing. Practicing what? We didn't have anything. So I went round to his house and Barney we were practicing in his gran's front room, and his gran had a little record player, old Valve, 70s record player. And he figured out how to wire up both guitars to the needle head on the record. You know, he took the needle off and the cartridge and wired the guitars, just wiring it round.
Right.
And we started playing, and it was like, wow. No idea of notes, strings, nothing. It was just like, ugh. And it sounded just like the Sex Pistols. And we were like, yeah. And all of a sudden, the fucking thing went off, and smoke started coming out of it. And his gran come in and started beating us over the head with a beater, like that you make cakes with.
It was great preparation
yeah,
for a lot
and
of
we ran down the road.
Promoters.
And I remember us running down the road, the two of us, which I suppose would be quite a moment for a film, laughing, clutching our guitars and running away together, laughing at what we'd begun. And that was probably the last time we laughed together. Only joking. I'm only joking.
I'm sure that you are.
Yes, I'm sure. Now, so the thing is that, that's how it started. And to go through the rest of it, as you well know, is full of so many ups and downs and so much frustration, elation, satisfaction, etc. It's almost impossible to describe.
It's an insane life that you've subscribed to.
Yeah, and you, yeah,
of course,
two of us did, yeah.
You were 16, 17?
20.
You were 20 then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, when I was 20, I couldn't imagine living to see 30. I thought for sure.
Yeah, the thing about punk that seemed attractive was this, I hope I die before I get old. And
right.
The big thing about it that you liked was getting rid of all the old farts. Right. I don't like it so much now. I'm an old fart.
Of course.
And I don't know what we'd have done if it had come true. I don't think we'd have been too happy. But yeah, it was that whole sweeping clean and doing whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. And Barney and I then hung around with the punk crowd. And it was with the punk crowd that we met Ian at the third Sex Pistols gig. Sex Pistols played twice at the Leicester Free Trade Hall, and then they played twice in a club called the Electric Circus. And on the third one, we met Ian. And Ian was already in a group, so he couldn't join our group. We couldn't join his group because he had a guitarist. So it was one of them, good luck, mate, and all this stuff. We saw the Sex Pistols. Then Bill Grundy happened, and then the Sex Pistols it was completely different after Bill Grundy, the Bill Grundy interview that they did. If you Google it on YouTube, it changed completely. It was full of football fans and riots, and the music seemed to take a step. So I suppose in a funny way, it was your first, someone came along and popped your balloon. I'd realised I'd lose a lot of balloons over the years. I'm still losing them. Someone came and popped the punk balloon and it went. But luckily we were so engrossed with the group. Ian's group split up and we asked him to join us. When he joined us, it became a completely different matter. And we lived and breathed it, and it was very, very difficult, So, and it was a wonderful insanity. I remember our second gig was supporting Johnny Thunder's Heartbreakers in Manchester. And oh my God, were we excited. Excited. We nearly all ran there carrying the equipment. It just wasn't heavy. You were that amped up. And I remember us getting there into this club called Rafters and waiting because we couldn't sound check until they'd sound checked. So we were there ridiculously early. We were there before them. And when they came in, we got the shock of our lives because they came in and they were, they were all really grumpy and miserable. And then they just all passed out.
Probably dope sick too.
And fell asleep.
Yeah.
And we were like, how could you sleep when you're in a group? That's impossible, because of our excitement at the start. So, you learn very quickly.
Yeah. I think as a music fan, it's hard to imagine. Things have changed, obviously. We live in the information age now, and people know probably way more than they need to. There's no mystery to anything. But back then, a music fan and someone who was a budding musician had no idea what was ahead of them, and you didn't know what was ahead of you.
We
didn't understand
why they were fucked.
Business.
And we didn't know why they played Chinese rocks 3 times that night.
But probably
in the
A,
set.
they didn't know. B, they were looking for someone to sell them dope.
Yeah. 3 times in the set. We couldn't believe it. Chinese rocks at the start, middle, end, and then as an encore.
Wow.
It's nuts. It was nuts. Johnny Thunders was fucked, but I was a great fan by that time of the New York Dolls. So for me to play with them was fantastic. And it was, my musical education then came thick and fast. I became a Bowie fan. I managed to buy all his LPs at a second-hand store for, I think there was 20p each. I got the whole lot, right from Man Who Sold the World, right the way up to the current one. I think there's about 4 or 5 of them, and then I had to go back and get Space Odyssey, so I became a massive Bowie fan. And then Ian educated both Barney and I in the world of Lou Reed, the Velvet Underground, God, the Doors. I mean, when we were getting compared to the Doors, Barney and I had never heard of the fucking Doors.
Is that right?
We didn't know who they were. Who's these Doors? Who's these Doors that they keep comparing us to? And Ian was laughing, and he went, "I'll lend you a record." So he lent us a record each of the Doors. Went home and played it, and I thought, fuck me, we do sound like the Doors. So we actually went through a phase then of playing Riders on the Storm as in the set, as a joke. And no one noticed. No one noticed that we were playing Riders. They thought it was one of our songs.
Right.
And it's a shame because there's no recording of that, which would be wonderful. But nobody ever recorded it.
In those early days, I mean, every band thinks they deserve to be on. So you have to have a certain amount of ego to jump on a stage and feel like you deserve to be seen, right?
For me, it's all about self-belief. And when people tell you, when they ask you, how did you make it as a musician? You believed in yourself when everybody else said you were shit.
Right.
And that's what kills me about all these talent programs on TV and your Simon Cowells of the world, who specialize in telling you what's to do and what's good and bad. I mean,
right.
What would Simon Cowell have said to Ian Curtis?
Right.
To Iggy Pop, fucking hell, to Shawn Ryder, to, Ian Brown.
Nick Cave.
Yeah, Nick Cave. He would have destroyed it. So the thing is, it's very difficult. What you have to do is you have to find like-minded friends, soon to become your enemies. We all know that well too much, don't we? And then you have to go at it, and you have to, it's nuts. It's absolutely a nuts thing to do, because you are battling against everyone, because nobody wants to fucking listen to the support band.
But could you have possibly imagined at that time that what you were doing would be put on such a pedestal in the history of music?
Well, considering that we started on the 4th of June 1976, and Ian was dead by May the 18th, 1980.
Right.
We rose, and we've never released, we've never written another track since then. It's incredible, the speed at which we improved in our writing was absolutely unbelievable. From doing those punk covers to punk rip-offs that we were doing in 1976 and 77, to then starting to write Unknown Pleasures, which was released in 79. It was an incredible acceleration. And good old Pete Shelley and, not Howard Devoto then, but Pete Shelley let Joy Division support him on the Buzzcocks tour of England when they had another Different Music in Another Kitchen, was it? LP. It was quite far ahead of its time. It was a very progressive record. It wasn't a punk or a pop record, and they had a hard time getting it across when they were playing it. But of course, Joy Division were at their punkiest, and we just blew them off every night. I've never done anything like that before, where I've never seen you blow. I mean, we've blown a few bands off as New Order. It's actually quite easy, to be honest, with a lot of them. So we've never, in fact, we've only ever been blown off by one band, which was fucking Deep Purple. Oh my God. They played before us at a festival in France, and fucking hell, they were fantastic.
Sure.
Oh my God, yeah. So, on the Buzzcocks tour, which was when we went professional, if you can call professional, being on $15 a week. And yeah, we did that tour, and then we went on. But of course, by that point, Ian was very ill.
Yeah.
And he was his own biggest enemy in that regard, in that he wouldn't give in to it and he wouldn't make any allowances for it. He was doing what we were doing, traveling, drinking, fucking around. He never gave in to it once, which ultimately he paid, the price.
Sure.
The price for. So, yeah. But it was, yeah. I mean, we were Joy Division for 78, 79, 2 years, 5 months.
Imagine,
and we did two
LPs.
LPs,
yeah,
6, 7 singles.
29 months in a massive timeline of rock music, and it's,
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, my heart aches for what we could have become, because for the third LP, we had Ceremony, we had In a Lonely Place, and we had ICB, which was the track that came out as a New Order track without an Ian vocal. So there's 3 songs in, that LP was looking pretty fucking good. Considering you only have 8 or 9 on an LP, 10 at most, it was looking like the third LP was going to be an absolute corker. But yeah, I mean, it just wasn't to be. So,
do you think if things hadn't ended the way they did, that eventually the band would have had the same issues?
Yeah, I mean, all bands have those issues. So the answer to that is yeah. I think the thing is that what happens when you're young is that you think a week lasts a year.
Well, sure.
All right. And you think a day lasts a month, and you think an hour lasts a day. So everything has to be quick, and you have to do it, and you won't let anything go. I mean, what we should have done, looking back now as an old man, is what we should have done was we should have stopped playing, and we should have had the time off to sort Ian out. But the trouble is that Ian had worked so hard to get what we had at that point. He was the instigator. He was always the one that drove you on. So he did not want to stop. And he kept saying, no, we worked really hard to get here. We can't stop. We've got to carry on. And we were going, mate, we can't do this. He was having fits at every gig. We did a gig in Bournemouth where I had to hold him down, had my fingers on his tongue for an hour. Yeah. And me and Rob Gretton, the manager, were taking turns, every 10 minutes, because you were getting cramp under his tongue. He didn't stop fitting for an hour. We couldn't get him to the ambulance or to the hospital because he wouldn't stop fitting. It took him an hour. We took him to hospital, and me and Rob were in the waiting room, and then he came out and he went, right, where's the party?
Right.
People going, what? You've just been fucking on the floor for an hour. Yeah, oh, fuck that. Come on, let's go to the party.
Do you think that you would have behaved differently if you were in his position, though?
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, you don't know, do you?
Right.
You know that. What I do know is that that's what happened.
Right.
And we were idiots. No one could rely on us for fuck all. But there were kids. A lot of other people, older people, looking after him, a lot of professional people. You have to say parents, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. Even around us, there were older people there. Yeah. So, I mean, we were, self-confessed knobheads.
Sure.
We didn't know our arse from our elbow. What the fuck were we supposed to do? So the thing is, but I mean, the guilt of it all never leaves you. I've had a few suicides in my life, And, you know, it's always the people left behind that are worrying. It's never the people that have left us. You know, I'm sure they feel free in a way, if you like. But yeah, so it's always the guilt of it is always there. And I suppose in a funny way, in my job, like I'm doing tonight, you know, playing, 15 Joy Division tracks and entrancing, hopefully, an audience with it, especially in a place like Seattle, because, you know, Seattle and Manchester share a big musical link. Nirvana with Kurt, Joy Division with Ian. It's quite weird to think of that.
They have a lot in common, I think.
Yeah, a lot of presence and obviously a lot to give. And then, you know, yeah, it's quite a strange thing. So, yeah, I mean, if you'd have said to me then, when Ian died, what you're going to be doing in 40 years, I would have laughed at you. In 44 years, you know, I'm not going to be doing anything. I won't be playing music, because it was over. You know, it was only when we went to the wake, not the wake, we went to the post-mortem, I don't know what they call it now, the coroner's inquest.
Yeah.
We went to the coroner's inquest and we were sat there, and I remember his wife's husband, getting up and blaming us. You know, we were like, and I remember him standing up and saying, yes, that Ian Curtis, he was on another plane. And I thought, I wish he'd have been on that fucking plane to America.
Right.
Because I think if we'd have made it, I think, you know, Ian's biggest ambition was to get to America, because all his favourite bands were American. Doors, Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, apart from David Bowie,
right.
Funnily enough. He was desperate to get to America and see CGBGs, to, you know, go to the Fillmore. All the things that he lived were very steeped in American culture. And I remember on Friday night of the weekend, we'd finished practicing and I was driving him home in my car, which was an old Mark 10 Jag, and had bench seats, and he was in the passenger seat and I was on the thing, and we were bouncing up and down with excitement of the fact that we were going to fucking America on Sunday, you know, and me and him, you know, screaming with excitement. And I dropped him off at his mum and dad's, and that was the last time I saw him. On the Friday night, he hung himself on the Saturday night, we believe, may have been Sunday morning. And I was the only one with a phone. So it was me that got the phone call from the police to say that he'd hung himself. So I had then to tell everybody else.
Earlier this year, I believe I surprised you and the band. I had seen Jack earlier in the day, and I came by. You guys were sort of scoping out a venue. I believe it was a place where Joy Division played. Was that tiny place with
where, mate?
In Manchester.
Ah, right, okay.
Right? Do you remember this? You guys played a gig. Was that a benefit? That was a benefit show, right?
God, I mean, Joy Division, we got into doing charity gigs.
No, but the Light did it earlier this year. The Light did a benefit.
Sorry, mate. Yes,
yeah?
You mean Star and Garter. What happened was that this very successful graffiti artist called Axie, had been employed by Mind, which is a mental health charity, to put up it's like an advertising hoarding on the side of a building.
Yeah.
And he put one up of Ian, and everybody in Manchester was over the moon that Manchester had its first monument to Joy Division and Ian. So it was attracting thousands of people every day, but it was an advertising hoarding.
Yeah.
And it was only booked for 3 months. So at the end of 3 months, it was painted over with somebody else. And everybody went mental about it.
Understandably.
Yeah. And for some strange reason, the Manchester Council, where I used to work, the town hall, they decided to do one. I don't know whether they had some money left over from somewhere or whether they robbed someone. I've no idea. But they decided to do a permanent monument to Ian Curtis on the Star and Garter, which is a pub, a very well-known music pub, mainly known for Smith's Nights, funnily enough, which is another ironic thing, which I'm sure Morrissey was over the moon about.
Sure.
The fact that this pub that specialised in Smith's Nights was putting up the Ian Curtis Memorial. So it went up, and I got in touch with Mind, because we'd worked with them quite a lot, Headspace, and said, oh, we'll do a gig to pay for the funding and for the charity. And we played Joy Division's first ever set list, which was from January the 27th, 1978, in Pips, a little shitty club in Manchester. We played there as Joy Division. It was our first gig. And we played that set list, which had a lot of the old punk songs in, which was great to dig them out. Ones that I'd written, Reaction, Inside the Line. It's fucking bonkers, to learn them, which was great. In fact, we didn't have time to for Paul to learn them, because we would have played them. To play them in America would have been great, because they were written by me, Ian, and Barney before Steve Morris came along. So they're different, but there's still the hint there that you're going somewhere,
We were all leaving the venue that day. You guys had finished having your meeting. I'd bombarded your, crashed your party. Surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all leaving, and we were looking up and admiring, the mural, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of tourists, Japanese tourists, came walking up to take a picture. And I think they actually looked at you and said, would you mind taking a picture of us in front of the thing? And they realized
afterwards,
no, like in the moment, they were oh my God. It was a really awesome thing to witness.
I'm really happy. We managed to get one, me and the Lord Mayor of Macclesfield, working together, more him than me, managed to get one for Macclesfield. Recently, I opened one in Stockport to commemorate in Joy Division. And so, my aim is to get more. I'd love to get one in Salford. Barney and I were from. So, it's great fun to do it, because there's so many fans that love it. It's a wonderful thing to do. I'm really proud of it. I can't believe that, Barney and Steve aren't. And it's the weirdest thing, I suppose they don't want to bump into me. That's why I get to do them all, because they don't want to bump into me.
Could it be like just you guys don't want to do what the other one wants to do because it's like some sort of brotherly kind of thing?
Well, a fucking brotherly, mate. They ripped me off for $7 million.
Sure. I mean,
do you know what I mean? I'm sure it'll be an interesting first meeting.
Right.
I've never met either of them. Outside a lawyer's office since 2007, actually.
Last year, you guys got a nod for the Rock Hall, and I was really excited. And interestingly, it was both bands, which seems appropriate.
Yeah,
I can't think of another instance where that would be appropriate. But it's a unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen, which was a disappointment. But what do you think, if it had happened, what do you think that night would have looked like? And would you have been down? Well, it wouldn't
have been pretty.
Would you have been down to get up on stage and perform?
No, not
with them. No,
I fucking hate them. They treated me despicably, and it's disgusting.
Do you think that nothing is unforgivable?
Well, the Eagles said that, didn't they?
Right.
And then hell froze over.
And Guns N' Roses got back together?
Well, nothing. I don't know. I mean, at the moment, while they're pretending to be New Order, which I find particularly irksome, because they don't particularly sound like New Order, and they aren't New Order, in my opinion, then the answer's no.
Right.
They did a really, in my opinion, again, a wrong thing in what they did to get the trademark. I thought it was despicable, the way they did it. So we've never resolved that. So until you resolve that, then you're not gonna get me to.
But you guys are still alive, so it's...
Yeah, although I did get a report the other day that Barney had died.
What?
Yeah.
But untrue. Oh, God.
What?
That look of disappointment.
No, I stubbed my toe on the table. That was what that look was for. It hurt. Oh, my poor toe.
Even the Gallagher brothers got back together.
Yeah, no, God knows why.
What?
Well, I mean,
did they ever have any? Yeah, you guys are from the same town. You must have rubbed elbows with them.
The first gig Oasis ever did was supporting my group Revenge.
Is that right?
Which was in Middleton Hippos in 1990, when it was they were originally called the Rain Band, and then Noel joined and they changed the name to Oasis, and their first ever gig was supporting me as Revenge in Middleton in Manchester. And then
were
so
I've
watched
twats?
No, well,
I mean, I think they're funny.
Mate, we're talking about self-belief, aren't we?
Right.
And we're going about the ultimate self-belief. So the thing is that Noel is a fantastic songwriter.
Yeah.
He had his golden moment, like we all do, and that created and begat Oasis.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Liam. You know, I've watched his career grow. We've been together a lot. We're classed as Manchester bands together. Mm. They unashamedly admit that they were influenced by Joy Division, New Order, the Hacienda, the whole Manchester era that came in the early 90s. They decided to move to London, whereas all us true patriots stay in Manchester. So different attitudes, you know. So the thing is that I know them really well. Noel comes to all the Hacienda nights that we do. I know him as well as you, if you like. You know? Yeah, see him a lot. I talk to him a lot. Liam, I knew as well till he moved to London. I don't see him a lot, but I do find them incredibly funny. But I
think they're hilarious.
Yeah, as a group, they leave me a little bit cold the way that they play, because Liam is, you know, he's not running around like Iggy Pop.
Right.
They're not like the Stooges, you know. So it sort of leaves me a little bit cold, Oasis. So whilst I love Noel's music and I like Liam's delivery, if you like, and I was very involved in Liam's and Oasis's wonderful way they pulled Manchester together, because my daughter was in the arena that night when the bomb went off. I have to stop talking soon, mate, because my voice is going. So you know, I watched them make a comeback with that way of pulling Manchester together.
Yeah,
Don't Look Back in Anger. It was wonderful, and they've really and enveloped that chance, if you like.
Sure.
And they pulled Manchester together, and then Manchester got behind them, and they've both gone, you know, mega again, whereas they'd actually waned. But I mean, I know a lot about them. Our roadie used to work for him. I know we've all got mutual friends. I know a hell of a lot about Oasis and the
Potsy
Gallagher
auditioned
brothers.
for Oasis. Is that true? Do you think he'd be mad if you told the story about his audition?
No, because I actually tell it better than him.
Great. I fucking have been dying for this to be public.
Jason, who was our roadie for New Order, he was then working for Liam and Noel. And he phoned me up and said, "Hey, do you know anyone who can play bass? Because we need a bass player."
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, well, Potsy can play bass." I think Monaco had finished then, and I was in New Order again. I said, "Potsy can play bass. He could do it. He knows all the songs anyway.
And he can sing."
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't have him singing. They just wanted him to play bass.
Oh.
So anyway, when he got there, he was a little bit put out that Noel was so loud compared to everybody else. So when they had a break, my story goes that as he was leaving, he turned his amp down. So they had a break, they come back in, and Noel goes, who's turned the fucking amp down? Cheeky bastards. Everyone went like that. Oh, God, they were all in fear of him. And he didn't find out, so he turned back up. So they practiced again. And then, I believe, Potsy said to him, I think you're playing the third chord wrong on Wonderwall. There's a better chord. And no,
he suggested a change to Wonderwall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which I would expect of Potsy because he's a fantastic musician. And Noel was like, what the fuck? Because they were all,
sure.
Proper up it. And the rehearsal went on. And then they had another break and Potsy turned his guitar down again. And he came back in and he went, "You turned my fucking guitar down again." And Potsy went, "Well, it was me, you're too loud." So he didn't get the job. Which is so Potsy, it's unbelievable. He tells the story completely differently, so you'll have to get him on and hear his story.
I'm privy to the story because on the 2 days that I got to rehearse with you guys before doing that tour, I'm playing, and he came over and turned a knob on the chorus pedal, like 2%. And I think I don't know what it was. It was a little weird. And I just kind of gave him a look like, what are you doing, bud? And I talked to Keo about it, and Keo was like, told me that story. He was like, you haven't heard anything.
No. I mean, he's very much. But I mean, that's why I gave him the job in the first place. To be honest,
he's incredible.
He was 19.
The whole band is incredible.
He was 19 when he came to be a tape op in my studio.
Oh wow!
In Rochdale, in Manchester, Suite 16, and he was working at the bank. He was working at a bank in Salford, and he said to me, "Oh, I want to be a tape op because I want to be in music." And I was like, "You're from Salford?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, that's all right. Come here." He said, "You've got the job." Easy as that. So anyway, he came in as a tape op, and Revenge were recording there. And while we were recording, he was sat there, and when the guitarist would play, he said, "Oh, you could play that better." He said, "Yeah, I'll give it me." And, the guitarist, as you can imagine, was well put out. But I thought, well, this kid's got chutzpah.
Sure.
And when we'd finished the LP, he was chipping in all the time. When we finished the LP, when we needed to play, we didn't have a bass player.
Right.
So I said to him, can you play bass? And he went, yeah. I said, right, you're in. So he joined us at 19.
Just like that.
Yeah. And yeah, I've been with him ever since. It actually worked out that now I've actually been with him longer than I was with Twatface in the band.
That's amazing.
Mm.
You guys, so this episode will come out in about a month. You guys will have concluded your U.S. tour, and you'll have just announced your next round of dates where you'll be playing Get Ready.
You know me, right? I'm always doing loads of shit.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I never stop. So the thing is that we're playing Get Ready in its entirety, which is the honeymoon period of New Order,
right,
when me and Barney wrote it mainly, nearly completely. And we had a wonderful honeymoon together after we'd split up. Mm-hmm. After Republic. So that LP, I think, is vastly underrated. So we're going to play that in full in England in April and March. If we get to tour it, we will, because we don't really do tours. We just don't stop. I can't get people to promote me or anything, PR guys, because they don't get it. They go, "But you play all the time. How can I promote that? You need to stop for a bit and then play, and we'll promote that." And yeah, like the old LP tour. And I said, I'm not doing that now. I don't like that. So, it becomes a bit difficult. So, yeah, we're playing Get Ready in England in April in its entirety with a best of New Order.
Regardless, I want to talk about Get Ready because I like the way that your eyes lit up when you talked about that record and the way that it came together.
Get Ready, Barney and I were really together on that record. And while we were doing it, Steve and Gillian basically faded away. Gillian in particular, because she quit before we came to play live. She'd quit by then. So, me and Barney did it mostly. And yeah, it was great. I mean, it turned out quite well. I mean, we did go through that. It was the first time I'd come across that thing where a record label encourages you to bring people in to make I think they see it as sprinkling stardust on your record. Let's get Bobby Gillespie, great lad. Let's get Billy Corgan. Let's get so-and-so and so-and-so. And like, we never considered it, and we did it. I think we did it mainly because we didn't know how we were going to be received coming back, which is probably the same problem they had when they took the trademark and didn't know how they were going to be received, because I wasn't there. I would imagine it was the same feelings. You don't know what's going to happen. So we were worried, and we thought sharing it with those people, like Billy came on tour with us, would make life easier, which it did. You know, it did do it. And also it gave you a different feel to the record, which I actually quite liked, in that it didn't feel like Barney was the captain. It felt like he was one of the...
It feels markedly different to me.
Yeah,
it feels like...
and there's some great bass riffs on it, some great tracks on it. So, and it was sort of... I don't know, I mean, it's had a great buzz with people that we're playing to. So I don't know whether the other people we don't get, the ones that they play to, I don't know whether they would be interested or not, or whether, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, the thing is that when I set out on this quest, my ambition was to play every song that Joy Division ever wrote and recorded, which I've done. All 54 of them in one go, in one gig.
Wow.
That was a gig. 54 songs. Whoa.
Was that 3.5 hours long?
Yes. Every Joy Division song, one after the others in chronological order, for a charity gig in Macclesfield at the church that Ian Curtis used to go to when he was a kid. He was in the choir there. So we did it for the rebuild of that church. So that was an amazing gig. That was oversubscribed. I think it was about 400 capacity. I think about 10,000 people applied for tickets for it, you know. So we should have done all those nights, but we didn't. So the thing is that I've done that, and now I want to do the same with New Order. New Order's a bit more difficult because there's a hell of a lot more songs. Sure. And some of them are quite bitty, so it's a bit weird. But yeah, we're just up to Get Ready. So we've actually been playing Joy Division, 2 LPs, and Substance a lot. And I didn't want to neglect my ambition, because I want to do it before I shuffle off this mortal coil. Sure. So, yeah, Get Ready fitted in there. And so I don't know whether we'll get to take it anywhere else. I've no idea, you know, so we'll have to wait and see. But a lot of the songs on Get Ready have never been played live.
I imagine there were probably many songs in the catalog that hadn't been played live. Some songs just don't translate, right?
Yeah, but when in my world, they have to translate, because my gig is playing them all. So I've got to do it.
In the life of New Order, not in... Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't play them because we're fucking lazy. Honestly, yeah. And as I've said before, we're a bit like a table with a wobbly leg.
Sure.
And the wobbly leg...
You commissioned yourself with a mountain of work, though, and yeah. That'll be... Get Ready will be the culmination of that?
No. There's there's 2 after that. There's Waiting for the Siren's Call, and there's Lost Sirens. Then it'll be over. And before we did the settlement agreement on the cases, I was going to play Music Complete and put the proper bass on it. Which, as you can imagine, went down very badly.
The thing about Get Ready is it feels like an evolution of the sound of the band, and also a little bit like a return in that the bass is a prominent lead instrument, and on some material it gets kind of buried in the mix.
Well, I think when they went through that phase where I was just fighting a losing battle. Right. I really was fighting a losing battle. And Shep Pettibone did me no good. when he did that remix of his I Love Triangle and Left Me Off.
It's really great to hear it as prominently on that record, though.
Well, I mean, it's taste, isn't it? You know, let's face it. If you listen to New Order play, to me they sound like electronic.
Right.
They don't sound like New Order. They sound like electronic covering New Order, and I think it's I think it's terrible that they're advertising themselves as New Order, because they don't sound like New Order, they don't act like New Order, and yeah, but that's my opinion, isn't it? And maybe, yeah.
One thing that I learned from being around you, touring with you, and having the remarkable opportunity to play your bass lines like with you on stage, is that you are absolutely, truly still a fucking punk. And I love that.
I'm just me.
Right.
So, I mean, I went through a terrible, terrible time biting my lip. I was biting my lip for years. And Becky, my wife, God bless her, wonderful woman, she always used to say to me, I'd walk through the door after a New Order tour or a New Order gig.
Yeah.
Like that. And she was just like, oh, God, she was just... The money didn't make up for the misery.
Sure.
Right. And the weird thing was then we stopped earning money because the records were taking so long to make. We weren't earning any money, and he wouldn't play live. So we were up shit street, really were. And ever since we split up, it was very traumatic. I wish I'd done it in a different way. I really do. I shouldn't have let my manager tell him. I should have gone myself and told him. So that was my fault. Right. I'll take that. So the thing is that when I started playing again, I DJ'd for years, all around the world, until I was exhausted with traveling. I couldn't do it anymore. And I really enjoyed that. Being paid to play other people's music is great fun, but the wonderful thing of being paid and sharing the power and the belief you have in the music with an audience of your own music is the best. So I was desperately trying to find a way of doing my own music, and I couldn't figure it out. And what happened was I was touring as a DJ with a band called the Clone Roses. So I'm warming up for the Clone Roses. The Clone Roses go on, and I swear to God that the 400 people in the audience thought they were the fucking Stone Roses.
Sure.
And people would come up to the singer and go, oh, Ian, can I have your autograph? And he'd go, okay, no problem, girlie. Where are you from? I'm from Glasgow. And they never took any notice, they was like that. I thought, this is fucking mad. So
Right.
I said to the manager, I said, you know what? I said, this is fucking mad, this. I'm going to start the Salford Joy division. And he went, then you've got a problem there, haven't you? Because you'll want to play in it, and you can't be in your own tribute band.
Right.
So I fucking proved that cunt wrong. You can be in your own tribute band.
Why
And
not?
one of the greatest compliments I got was when the bass player of Nirvana decided, what's his name? Chris, yeah, lovely guy, decided to play the Nevermind in full. And the first line of the review for that gig was, I blame Peter up for this. I was over the moon. I thought, go, Chris, fuck you, asshole.
Suck it.
Yes, exactly. So the thing is that, I managed to find a way of playing. And then, of course, we had our awful trauma of going to court and fighting, which so many bands make that mistake. That was a big mistake. When Andy Rourke said to me, the worst thing that ever happened to him was going to court over the Smiths.
Right.
I thought he was being a drama queen.
And then you went
When
to
I
court.
got there, I realised, fucking hell, man. You think life's tough. You know, you go to Hell's Kitchen, you go in the favelas in Brazil,
Sure.
you go all over the world to all these dodgy places that we are partial to.
Hell's Kitchen's not so bad anymore.
Well, yeah, but nothing is worse than going in that fucking hell of a load of courtroom with the lawyers and judges. That is worse than the favelas in Brazil, mate.
Well, they're vultures.
Oh, fucking hell. Well, I mean, the law was definitely not put in place to get you justice. That's what I've learned. But anyway, the thing is that I found a way of doing it. They tried to stop me. They didn't succeed. So, yeah, and we've sort of come to an impasse now where the deal is, you know, you leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. So what that entails or how that works is how it's going at the moment. So the fans obviously are, you know, pretty oblivious to it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I keep threatening to write a book about the court case, calling it Law and New Order. Or lawfare. I was going, yeah, well, I mean, you'd have to be very careful in what you can say about legal proceedings.
Well, I think so, yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, it's like a way of, you know, that wrong that I think happened is something that I live with every day. And a lot of the time I forget about it. It's like heartbreak, isn't it? You know, divorce, when you're going through it, the grief and the tragedy and the way you feel is awful. But it goes, it diminishes. But when something reminds you of you, she took my favorite dog, that bitch.
Sure.
It's like that, you know. So it's weird. And then you go back to being normal. So yeah, living with it is not as tough as it was, shall we say.
It's my hope, as well as I'm sure many other people's hopes, that somehow through the miracle of who knows what, it is somehow mended. And I think that
I mean, you know,
everyone would love to see it, but also it would be great feeling probably for
me, yeah,
like that honeymoon phase that you had in 2000 making the record.
Well, it's the lack of respect that you have for each other, which is startling when you compare it to what you've achieved. That is the heartbreaking thing, I think, and it should be resolved. But to be honest with you, the ball's in their court. They did it. If they need to fix it, it's their end. I tried and I couldn't. So if they want to be gentlemen and they want to be fair, then they can, and it would be resolved. Yeah. But it shows no sign of that. So whatever, you know.
They'd also have to be willing to go tour and play shows.
Well, no, you know what? No, because even if you did resolve it, I'd just go out with a light.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they go, you can't do that.
Right.
You know, I mean, those days of being told what to do and when you can do it have gone for me. You know, it was heartbreaking. It was like having Costco.
Right.
It's fully stocked. Millions of people outside, and some cunt won't open the door.
Yeah.
Look what we've got. Look who wants to hear it. Come on. No, I'm not opening the door.
I love that you are still excited, enthusiastic to play music, and you're still so busy. And I asked Duff McKagan this question, and he had an interesting answer, but do you see a point where you will stop? Or do you play yourself into the grave?
Oh, God. I mean, you know, old age is tricky. It's a trickster.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you're old. And on the one hand, you see people who are old. I see people who are old. Fuck me, they look old.
Sure.
But I don't feel old. And I'd like to think I don't look old. And I certainly don't fucking act old. So it's a weird situation to be in. I mean, I went to see, my wife took me to see Bruce Springsteen at when they played in Ireland. Great gig. Loved it. He did 3 hours. And, the biggest compliment that I had in England was being called Salford's answer to Bruce Springsteen. So, yeah, I mean, you just do what you do, just like we did. Yeah, I mean, how crazy was it to walk out of a Sex Pistols gig, borrow 30 quid off your mother, 35 quid, and go and buy a fucking guitar when you didn't even know how many fucking strings it had?
And now here you are.
Yeah. I still don't know how many strings it's got. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We buy into insanity, and that insanity travels with you. And sometimes you leave it behind, and sometimes then you have to pick it up somewhere. And, bands are fucking ridiculous. The things they argue about and the shit that happens between the world's best songwriters, you couldn't even, I mean, most normal people who are free of that must look at it and think, why couldn't Lennon and McCartney get on?
So many of us, in bands, when we come together, that sort of musical marriage is created.
Oh, it's hell.
And our emotional development is frozen, and it's arrested at that point. And so that's
you're like children in a playground.
Eternal.
Yes. I mean, the Gallaghers are a perfect example of it. I got loads of phone calls asking, to talk about the Oasis reunion.
Sure.
I couldn't give a fuck about the Oasis reunion.
Right.
I couldn't give an arse about it. What I'm delighted about is that their mother will have a lovely bloody Christmas this year because the two of them, and hopefully that all the families will be together. And I think that that's more important than anything. Peggy will have a lovely Christmas. I'm delighted for her.
Don't you think that's a perspective that you could only have at your age now, and you would never have been able to have that when you were 25?
Well, I mean, I was never in their league at 25. We were... don't forget, at 25, we were coming out of the ashes of Joy Division as New Order. And I mean, it's not... Oasis captured something.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I don't get it.
Sure.
So, and I've done it. I saw him first gig. I'll probably see him at the last. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I went to see them in Eaton Park when they played.
Yeah.
It was their first massive gig, Eaton Park. And I went with Manny from the Stone Roses. Me and Manny went. And I took my daughter. She was 10 at the time. And what they had was, and I'd never seen it before, they had a VIP pit.
Right.
And there's 5,000 people in the VIP pit who'd paid more to be there.
5,000
in this pit, which was fenced in. And then there was a line around the pit here.
Wow.
Which was the VIP area, which was the guest list, me and Manny, every other twat in Manchester, and then behind you was a fucking field that went back. You just couldn't take it in. It was that big. There was 70,000 people in it.
Wow.
All crushed in together. And I was stood there with Jessica, and Oasis started. Everyone was going bonkers. And then these people behind who were stuck there were pissing in bottles. And then there was nowhere for them to throw it. So they were throwing it in the VIP area. So I'm stood there with my daughter, who's 10, and all these fucking bottles full of piss are coming over.
Oof.
And I thought, fuck this.
Right.
And that was it. I lasted 2 songs. And we went home. Yeah. So I've got tickets for it.
Yeah.
For the reunion. And I'll just be like I was at the Stone Roses.
Sure.
Bored.
I
love the Stone Roses.
That I got a gig playing second guitar for the band. I had a nightmare that I got
for Oasis.
Yeah, and I cared about it so little that I didn't learn the songs, and it was like one of those stress dreams. Like
I have them all the time.
The show was about to start.
You know who I have them with? I have them with fucking New Order. I have the same dream all the time that I'm going on with New Order, them twats, and I've not learnt the songs that they play that we don't play, of which there aren't many. And that's my stress dream.
I have a fucking great admission to make to you, and I don't know if I ever told you this. The weight of what I got to do with you never really it didn't hit me until after the tour, because everything happened so fast. It was a folly that I was even on the tour. Right, I flew over, we rehearsed one record one day, the other record the other day. We played a couple of New Order songs, and you guys were like, "You're fine," and I was like, I don't know the names of the songs because I don't know if you knew this.
Oh, don't worry.
I learned the records front to back because I knew that's how, because there were so many songs to learn. There was no way I knew there was no way I was going to be able to learn individual songs. I learned the records.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could play the record front to back.
But you didn't know the title.
But if you said, fill in the blank,
I mean, you see, the interesting that I love, the thing I love about the Light is that there's no bullshit with us. There's only 7 of us.
Right.
It's 5 band and 2 crew.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, with the size of gigs that we're doing, the amount of people that we're making happy, hopefully, for 7 people to do it is fucking incredible. And I must admit that it's wonderful to be with them, because to make it work with so little preparation is a wonderful testament to the boys' talent, not only the crew, but also the band.
The band is awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, people walk in and go, "Where's the rest of you?"
Right.
"Where's the buses?"
Yeah.
"Where's the lighting guy?" Where's the fucking...
Yeah.
If you've got the right attitude, you can do anything. If you've got the wrong attitude, everything's really difficult.
Well, it's a punk's attitude.
Yeah, that's what I have to say. I mean, whatever happens, happens. And it's not a big deal, because to me, the greatest thing in the world is waking up in the morning and going, "Fuck, got another day. Thank you, Lord." Whoever you are or whatever you are, thank you for that next day. That is the best thing in the world. It really is. And, we've been through those periods, you and I, where you fought, didn't you? You embraced the night and fought the day. And
sure.
You know what? I regret that so much. That's the only bloody thing I regret. It's, that trying to turn something round because of... Yeah. So, I mean, that's another program in itself.
You can always make more money. You can't make more time.
Well, yeah, and you'll never... Yeah, that is the weirdest thing in the world, isn't it? And you can't buy it.
Yeah.
A lot of people try, but you can't buy it. But we should do one. We could talk here, and I'm going to wind it up now because I need to go and get ready. But we could talk here for fucking days.
I believe
because
so.
we both shared and rubbed shoulders with people with much bigger stories than ourselves.
Sure.
As well, and seen that side of it, and then lived your own side of it. It is an incredible... Someone should write a book.
Big stories, and so you've had some...
Yeah. But I mean, it's weird. I mean, when I think about the 2 bands, but then you think about the Hacienda and what the Hacienda did for musical culture in acid house, house music, raves, fucking you name it, all the world, the influence it had on clubbing, the influence it had. My wife's just doing a book at the moment called Threads.
Yeah.
And it's coming out in October. And she's celebrating the other side of the Hacienda. She's not celebrating the people that built it and the people that fucked it up like I do.
Like, not the behind-the-scenes bullshit.
Or the drugs, or the gangsters, none of that. She's just celebrating the people that went. The people that went there and were inspired enough by the place to go on and do great things. Amazing. And when I've seen the book, it was humbling, because I think it's all about us, but it's not. It's more important that the people that were untrumpeted
Right.
get their moment. And there were so many of them. And I never realised how the staff of the Hacienda was so loved and the influence that they had on the people that came in. Because I was always looking at the bad bastards,
Right.
the ones who were ruining it for everyone. That was my world. We
You weren't
started
exactly keeping your nose clean at that time either.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I mean, you sort of you throw them out for dealing drugs and then go, oh fuck, what am I going to do now? Madness, absolute madness. But yeah, so it was wonderful that she, after listening to me moan about it all the time, has been able to find something wonderful in it and celebrate that. And that's coming out in October, which is Wonderful Threads. Yeah, changed my perception of the Hacienda.
Awesome.
Completely. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing, mate. If I'd have, oh God, can you imagine what would have happened if I hadn't have gone and seen the Sex Pistols?
You'd be the mayor.
Yeah, probably. No, I didn't. I left, didn't I? I left the town hall and went to work at a holiday camp.
Yeah. You think you would have had
My mother never
you
forgave
could have had your
me.
own bed and breakfast in Blackwater? What is it called?
You know what? The only thing I was interested in was cars.
Yeah.
So I probably had my scrapyard. Hooky's Scrappers, that's what it'd be. Hooky's Scrappers. And that's what I probably would have done without music. But I mean, yeah, it has been sublime, ridiculous, heartbreaking, mainly at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I am so grateful to every single one of those people that, you know, that stand at a gig with me for being able to get out of the crazy world that we all live in just for a few hours and disappear. And then the world is always still waiting for you afterwards. But luckily, we can get those moments where you can forget everything in those moments. Yeah, it's wonderful. And the amount of people that come up to me and go, you know, you saved my life in college, you saved this. I'm like, shit. It is absolutely humbling to think that doing something that you love can make that much difference to somebody. It really
Well,
does.
ironically, you know, going on tour with you kind of saved my life because it got me thrown more deeply back into music. And so again, I'm like, thank you for that.
No, mate, it was a pleasure having you.
I can't wait to see you guys.
Something, don't we? We all learn every day. We learn something else.
If you're paying attention,
absolutely. Even if you're not paying attention, you can learn a lot, can't you? Life never goes the way you want it. It's twists and turns. It's fucking amazing. So yeah, I am delighted. I never thought I'd still be getting away with it. 48 years later.
Right.
48 years. Oh my God.
You're 68.
I'm 68, yeah. Can't believe it.
Well,
honestly can't believe it.
You play with all of the same energy, maybe more. Like, it's really amazing. And the shows are epically long and exciting. The band is dynamite. I can't wait to see the band tonight. I can't wait to see the
come
lads.
on, get me home so I can have something to eat.
I will do. Thank you, pal.
You're welcome, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. We could stay here all blood. Until showgirls open.